My wife cheated on me with our neighbor, then secretly forged my signature to sell our family home for $350, $0. Now she's claiming I owe her half and threatening legal action. I just found out she's been planning this plan for years. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I honestly didn't see it coming. One day, everything seemed normal. My wife was acting a little distant, but I figured it was just stress from work or something. Little did I know, the biggest shock of my life was waiting just around the corner. The kind of shock that hits you so hard, your mind refuses to process it at first. But then the pieces started falling into place, and I realized I'd been blind for years. I met when I was in college, young and stupid, but she was charming, beautiful, confident, a little bitchy, but in a way that drew people in. We got married after a few years, and for a while, everything seemed fine. She was the kind of woman who knew what she wanted, and she wasn't shy about telling you exactly how she felt. But looking back, I can see the cracks now. Small things that I brushed off, like her dismissive attitude when I tried to talk about our future, or the way she'd get defensive when I asked about her whereabouts. It all started to change about 6 months ago. She became more secretive with her phone, always locking it, hiding her texts. She'd leave her phone around, then snatch it up quick if I looked at her screen. I thought maybe she was just being cautious, but the gut feeling gnawed at me. One evening, I came home early from work and caught her red-handed. She was in bed, her phone open on her lap, and I saw the name Jake flashing on the screen. Jake was our neighbor, an arrogant guy who always looked down on me, like I was beneath him. I'd always suspected something was off between them, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I didn't say anything that night, but I kept my eyes open. Over the next few weeks, I noticed her behavior changing more. She'd sneak out at odd hours, claiming she was running errands or meeting friends, but I had a sneaking suspicion she was seeing Jake again. Then one day I found a pair of women's underwear in our laundry that definitely wasn't mine. That was the moment I knew for sure she was cheating. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I started digging. I installed a hidden camera in the bedroom just to see what was really going on. It wasn't long before I caught her sneaking off to meet Jake, sometimes late at night. I saw them kissing, touching, laughing like they were alone in the world. The betrayal cut deep, more than I can put into words. I felt sick, angry, humiliated. How could my wife, the woman I loved and trusted, be sleeping with our neighbor? It felt like my whole world was crashing down around me. But that wasn't all, because the real shock came when I started to dig into the financial stuff. Had been acting weird about money, too, asking for larger sums, making secret purchases. I thought she was just being irresponsible, but it turned out she'd been secretly planning something far worse. I found out she forged my signature on documents, papers I never saw, selling our house without my knowledge for $350, $0. I was stunned. How could she do this? How could she betray me not just emotionally but financially? The house was our biggest asset, the thing I thought secured our future. She'd been planning this for years, I realized, and I'd been completely blind. The worst part was her denial. When I confronted her, she spun a story about how I was paranoid, accusing her of things she hadn't done. She claimed I was overreacting, that everything was just a misunderstanding. But I knew better. I had proof, screenshots, bank statements, the forged signatures. Still, she lied through her teeth, calling me crazy, saying I was imagining things, that I was jealous and insecure. She's always been good at spinning stories, but this was next level. She's manipulative, a real master at gaslighting. Now I'm stuck in this mess. My trust is shattered, my sense of reality completely upside down. I don't even know who she is anymore. The betrayal feels like a punch to the gut every time I think about it. I've been trying to process how I got here, what I should do next. Part of me wants to fight, to get her out of my life and take back control. The other part feels broken, like I've lost everything that mattered. This whole situation is a nightmare I can't wake up from, and I'm just trying to figure out how to move forward when the person I loved most in this world turned out to be the biggest liar and cheat I've ever met. After I uncovered everything, her affair with Jake, the forged signatures, the sale of our house, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was racing, trying to process how someone I trusted so completely could do something so malicious. I kept replaying all the signs I missed, all the little things that now seemed so obvious. The secretive texts, the late nights, the disappearing acts. I was furious, hurt, and utterly betrayed. But what tore me apart most was knowing she had been planning this for years, lying right to my face every step of the way. I remember sitting in the living room, staring at the pile of evidence I'd gathered, screenshots of her messages with Jake, the forged documents, bank statements showing the house sale. My hands trembled as I held my phone, trying to make sense of it all. I felt like I was in some twisted nightmare I couldn't wake up from. How could she do this? How could she betray me so openly, then lie about it? The thought of losing everything, our home, our life savings, the trust I once had in her, made my stomach churn. The first thing I did was confront her again. I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I called her into the bedroom, showing her the evidence on my phone. Her face paled, and she immediately started spinning her lies. "You're overreacting, Jack," she said, her voice dripping with false innocence. "That's just a misunderstanding. You're imagining things. Jake and I are just friends. We've never done anything serious." She looked me dead in the eyes and lied without a shred of remorse. It was infuriating. I told her I had proof, but she just shrugged and called me paranoid, accusing me of spying on her because I was insecure. That moment marked the beginning of a war. I realized I couldn't trust her anymore. The woman I thought I knew was a master manipulator, and I had to be careful. I started planning my next move, what to do about the house, about her, about us. I knew I couldn't just walk away without fighting back. I needed to reclaim what was mine, my dignity, my home, my life. I decided to get legal advice to see what options I had. The sale of our house was illegal without my signature, and I had to act fast. Meanwhile, kept up her act, pretending to be the victim. She'd cry, call me crazy, say I was ruining everything because I didn't trust her. But I caught her in more lies. She claimed she only slept with Jake once, that she was just lonely, that it meant nothing. Yeah, right. I saw the texts, the photos. It was obvious she'd been planning this affair for months, maybe years. And she was still insisting I owed her half of the sale proceeds, half of the $350, $0 she'd secretly sold the house for. She's always been bitchy, demanding, and she's good at twisting things to her advantage. What made everything worse was her attitude about the money. She kept saying she deserved half because she was entitled to it, that I was somehow at fault for not noticing her plans earlier. She's a real piece of work, blaming me for her betrayal, acting like she's the victim. It was like she was trying to gaslight me into thinking I was the crazy one. But I knew the truth. I had the evidence, and I was ready to fight for my rights. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt humiliated, angry, and deeply sad. I kept thinking about all the years we spent together, how I trusted her, how I thought she loved me. Now I see she was just playing a long game, pretending to be the perfect wife while secretly planning her escape and her financial gain. I was devastated, but part of me also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I couldn't keep living in this lie. I had to do something, even if it meant tearing everything apart. So I started gathering everything I needed to take legal action. I contacted a lawyer, and she confirmed that forging my signature was a serious crime, and the sale of our house without my consent was illegal. I also discovered that had been secretly withdrawing large sums of money from our joint account, probably to fund her affair and her plans. I was furious. I felt like I'd been played for a fool, and I was furious at myself for not seeing it sooner. But I also knew I had to stand up for myself. I couldn't let her get away with this. Not after everything. The hardest part now is figuring out what comes next. Do I try to save the marriage? Do I divorce her and fight for the house and the money? Do I cut her out completely? Every option feels like a punch to the gut. I don't even know who she is anymore. All I can do is take it one step at a time, gather the evidence, and prepare for the inevitable legal battle. I've been betrayed in ways I never thought possible, and now I'm just trying to hold it together long enough to figure out how to make things right for myself. I never thought I'd be in a situation like this, completely by someone I loved and trusted. But here I am, staring down the reality that my wife had been plotting her escape and financial gain for years. It's like I was living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every time I think about her, I get this mix of rage and sadness that's hard to describe. How could she be so calculating? How could she lie so effortlessly, even when I had concrete proof? After I confronted her with the evidence, she doubled down on her lies. She claimed I was paranoid, that I was projecting my insecurities onto her. She said I was imagining things, that I was overreacting because I didn't want to face the truth. I could see the desperation in her eyes when she spun her stories, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew she was a master manipulator, and I had to be smarter than her if I wanted to get out of this mess with some shred of dignity intact. I started calling lawyers the next day. I needed to understand my legal standing. Turns out forging my signature on documents to sell the house was a felony. The sale was illegal. She had no right to do that without my consent. The house was jointly owned and she had no authority to sell it alone. I also found out that she had been secretly withdrawing money from our joint account, probably to fund her affair and her plans to leave with the money. She'd been planning this for years, and I was just the fool who didn't see it. Meanwhile, kept up her act, crying, playing the victim, insisting she loved me. She said she'd never cheat, never do something so disgusting, even though I had the texts, the photos, the proof. She told me I was overreacting, that I was ruining our marriage over nothing. That's classic blame shifting, denying, twisting everything to make herself look innocent. She's always been good at talking her way out of trouble, but this time, I had enough evidence to shut her down. The thing that's really eating me up is her attitude about the money. She claims she deserves half of everything because she's been entitled to it all along. She's demanding I give her a share of the house sale, even though she secretly sold it behind my back. She's claiming I owe her half because we were married, but I'm pretty sure that doesn't hold up when she forged my signature and took the house without my permission. Still, she's threatening legal action if I don't pay her. That's when I realized how far gone she is, willing to fight dirty and manipulate the law to her advantage. My emotions are all over the place. One minute I'm angry, furious at her betrayal, at her lies, at myself for not seeing the signs earlier. The next minute I feel devastated, like I've lost the woman I thought I knew. I keep replaying all the moments we had, wondering how she could be so cold and calculating. I feel like I've been punched in the stomach every time I think about her sleeping with Jake, then turning around to try and steal everything I worked so hard for. But I refuse to be a victim here. I've gathered all the evidence I need, and I'm ready to fight her in court. I've been advised to file for an annulment or divorce and to challenge her claims about the house sale and the money. I'm also considering going after her for fraud, since she forged my signature. That's a crime. I want her to pay for what she's done. I don't want her to walk away with my house, my savings, or my peace of mind. The hardest part now is deciding what I want for myself. Do I try to fix this marriage? Do I want her back after everything? Honestly, I don't know. Right now, I just want to reclaim my life, my integrity, and my home. I want her out of my life for good. But I also feel this deep sense of loss of trust, of love, of the future I envisioned. It's like I've been robbed and I don't even know how to start rebuilding. I've been talking to friends and family, trying to sort through my feelings. Some say I should fight for the house, for the money, for my dignity. Others say I should just walk away and start over. But the truth is, I don't have all the answers yet. I'm just taking it one day at a time, gathering evidence and preparing for what's next. I never thought I'd find myself in this situation, but I know one thing: betrayed me in every way possible, and I won't let her get away with it. Not without a fight. I thought I had seen the worst of it when I found out about the affair and the forged signatures. But the real shock came when I started digging deeper into her plans. Turns out, had been working on this for years, long before I even suspected. She had been secretly meeting Jake, planning to leave, and most disturbing of all, She had been orchestrating the sale of our house behind my back. Seeing her lie so convincingly, so effortlessly, made me realize how dangerous she truly was. One night, I caught her in the act again. I had set up a hidden camera in the living room because I just couldn't trust her anymore. I wanted to see what she was up to when I wasn't around. Sure enough, I saw her on the camera, whispering on the phone with someone. I paused the footage, and my stomach dropped when I recognized her voice. She was telling whoever was on the line exactly how she was going to get rid of me, how she'd make it look like I was crazy or unstable. She was plotting to make it look like I was the one at fault if I ever found out the truth. I knew. I had to act fast. I called my lawyer immediately and told him everything. We went over all the evidence, and he confirmed that her plans were not only illegal but also potentially dangerous for me. She had forged my signature to sell our house, and she was planning to push me out completely. The more I thought about it, the more I realized she wanted to disappear with the money and Jake, leaving me with nothing. I felt sick just imagining what she was capable of doing if I hadn't caught her. The next step was to get a restraining order. I didn't want her anywhere near me or the house anymore. I also wanted to freeze her bank accounts and stop her from withdrawing any more money. I had to protect what was left of my life savings and make sure she couldn't run off with everything. I also filed for divorce, knowing I needed to cut her out of my life once and for all. This whole thing was spiraling out of control faster than I could keep up, but I knew I had to stay one step ahead. Meanwhile's reaction was classic. She played the victim, crying and claiming I was the one cheating and lying. She said I was paranoid and jealous, trying to ruin her reputation. She insisted she loved me, that she'd never do anything to hurt me, yet her actions told a different story. Every lie, every secret meeting with Jake, every forged signature was proof she was capable of anything. She was manipulative, and she knew exactly how to twist the narrative to make herself look innocent. I couldn't believe how far she'd gone, planning to leave me with nothing, secretly selling the house and lying about everything. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. I trusted her with my life, my future, and she had been plotting to take it all away from me. The anger was building inside me, but I knew I had to stay calm and focused. I couldn't let her see how much she'd hurt me. I had to be strategic if I wanted to win this fight. The financial damage was staggering. I found out she had drained our joint account, took out loans in my name, and even tried to open credit cards in my name. She was trying to make me appear financially unstable so I'd look like the bad guy, but I had all the evidence now. I was gathering everything: bank statements, texts, emails, forged documents, and I was ready to take her to court. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done, not just financially but emotionally. She had shattered my trust, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Honestly, I feel like I'm living through a nightmare. Every time I think I've seen the worst, she surprises me with something new. But I also feel a strange sense of clarity, like I finally see her for who she really is. It's hard to accept, but I know I have to move on. I can't keep living in this chaos, waiting for her next move. The only thing I can do now is stay strong, fight for what's mine, and try to rebuild from this mess. I never thought I'd be in this position, but I realize now that I have to be the one to stand up and take control. I owe myself that much. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that wasn't just a woman scorned. She was a manipulative, calculating person who had been playing me for years. The betrayal cut deep, but what hurt even more was realizing how long she'd been planning her escape. Every secret meeting with Jake, every forged signature, every dollar she took from our joint accounts. She had been building her escape route, and I was just the fool who didn't see it coming. I spent days reviewing all the evidence I'd collected. The texts between her and Jake were the worst. They showed a level of intimacy that made my stomach turn. She was talking about their plans, about how she'd leave, about how she'd take the house and the money. I saw her discussing the sale of our home, how she'd forge my signature and make it look like I agreed. It was sickening to see her so cold, so calculated, so willing to destroy everything we had built together. One night, I decided I had to confront her again, this time face to face and with a plan. I arranged for her to come home, pretending everything was normal. I wanted her to see that I knew everything. When she walked in, I laid out all the evidence on the dining table. Her eyes widened and her face went pale. I watched her try to spin her lies, but I was done listening. I told her I was filing for legal separation and that I was going to take her to court over the house, the money, everything. Her mask of innocence crumbled and she started crying, but I wasn't buying it anymore. Her reaction was classic. She tried to guilt me into backing down. She said she loved me, that she never meant to hurt me, that she was just lonely. She claimed Jake was just a fling, that it was a mistake she'd never do again. Yeah, right. I saw the messages. I saw the plans. She'd been lying to me the whole time. I couldn't even look at her without feeling a mix of disgust and anger. I realized I'd been living with a person who was capable of anything, someone who would lie, cheat, forge documents, and manipulate the law to get what she wanted. The legal battle was now unavoidable. I hired a lawyer, and we started drafting papers to challenge the sale of the house, to have her accounts frozen, and to stop her from taking any more money. I also filed for divorce, knowing I needed to cut her out of my life once and for all. The house sale was illegal without my signature, and I had proof of her forging my name. I wanted her held accountable, not just for the financial fraud but for the emotional damage she'd caused. But the emotional toll was just as heavy as the legal fight. I kept thinking about the life I thought we had, how I'd trusted her, how I'd believed she loved me. That trust was shattered, and I wasn't sure I'd ever get it back. Every time I looked at her, I saw the woman who was capable of deception and betrayal at levels I never imagined possible. It made me question everything: my judgment, my choices, my future. I felt like I was walking through a fog of anger and sadness, trying to find my way out. I also realized I had to start focusing on myself. This whole experience was a wake-up call. I couldn't keep living in fear or resentment. I started seeing a therapist, trying to process what had happened and how to rebuild my life. I knew I deserved better than this, and I refused to let her ruin me completely. I was determined to come out of this stronger, even if it meant starting over from scratch. In the end, I learned a lot about trust and betrayal. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you can hurt you the most. And I learned that no matter how much it hurts, you have to stand up for yourself. I'm not there yet, far from it, but I'm starting to see a path forward. I know now that I have to be the one to reclaim my life, my dignity, and my peace. Betrayal was a brutal lesson, but I refuse to let it define me. I'll fight for what's right and I'll rebuild. That's all I can do now. Looking back, I can't believe how far I've come from that first moment of shock to now, trying to piece my life back together. The betrayal was brutal. She not only cheated on me with Jake, but she also planned and executed a scheme that almost cost me everything I worked for. The house she sold behind my back, the forged signatures, the money she took from our joint accounts, each revelation felt like a punch in the gut. But I also learned something crucial. I'm stronger than I thought. The legal process has been exhausting. I've had to fight tooth and nail to get the house back, to prove her fraud, to challenge her claims. It's been of emotions, anger, frustration, despair, but also a stubborn resolve to not let her win. I've seen her try to manipulate the situation, spin stories that paint her as the victim, but I have the evidence, and I'm determined to see justice done. It's not just about the money or the house anymore. It's about reclaiming my dignity and integrity. Throughout this nightmare, I've also realized how important it is to trust my instincts. I ignored the warning signs for too long, but once I started paying attention, everything changed. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you can hide their true nature until it's too late. That's a hard lesson, but one I needed. It's made me more cautious, more aware, and more committed to protecting myself from future betrayals. I also want to share that healing takes time. I've spent countless nights questioning everything, feeling betrayed and broken. But I've also started to forgive myself for trusting her, for not seeing the signs sooner. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing what happened. It's about releasing the anger that eats you up from the inside. I've learned to focus on myself, to rebuild my confidence, and to find happiness outside of this chaos. My advice to anyone who might be going through something similar: trust yourself. Pay attention to the small signs. even if they seem insignificant at first. When something feels off, don't dismiss it. Get help, gather evidence, and don't be afraid to stand up for your rights. Betrayal cuts deep, but it's also an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become stronger. Life will throw curveballs, but you control how you respond. Today, I'm still healing, still rebuilding. I've moved out of that house, started fresh somewhere new, and I'm slowly putting the pieces of my life back together. It's not easy, and I still have moments of doubt, but I know I'll be okay. The pain of betrayal will never completely go away, but I refuse to let it define me. I've learned that even in the darkest moments, there's a chance for renewal. I'm choosing to move forward, wiser and more cautious than ever, with a newfound respect for myself and the boundaries I need to protect.